at our football. I think it's important that the stories of Namibian football over the last 50, 60 years I think Carlos has put into this book the research hours he spent. I know we were in telephonic contact. Sometimes he says, there's this Atlantis, for instance. Who's he? The tall guy at the back. He sends me a photo. Or give me a photo of Ramblers 1985 when they won the Mainstay Cup. I want to do a story on Egbert Hoff, for instance. The inside, what was this called? Inside the Tales of the Legends. What? Tales of the Legends. The weekly edition in the new era has become legendary. I think all football lovers and all of us here are football lovers, always look forward to the new era on a Friday just to see who's been captured on the second last page. I would like to acknowledge the presence here of our special guests of honor. A few to mention here. The former president's daughter, Dr. Hage Gottfried Geingob's daughter, Nangula Geingos. I also acknowledge the presence of former NFA President, Mr. John Munyo. I acknowledge the presence of football legend from Döbra, instrumental in football youth development structures later, Mr. Willem Hans. And I acknowledge the presence all the way from Walvis Bay, the one and only Ivo de Govai. And I also acknowledge, maybe let's give him a big round of applause before we forget, Carlos Kambaekua. I've left somebody out. We've got a number of guests. Somebody that flew themselves. I believe Ivo was doing 160 from the airport to here. Huh? Ivo makes everything possible. Former legends in Namibian football. I'm going to name a few. Doc Naobeb. Who is he? At the back, I see Ben Kleinke Gazep. I see Bonnie Paulino. I see Ian Wood, Woody. I see Mabos Ortman. Where are you hiding? There's Mabos. Koko Matungwa. Yes, there he is. Blue Waters. Mr. Leminare from Orlando Pirates. We shared a few exchanges. And all other legends, you will be acknowledged later. I think it's befitting that we are giving Carlos this honor and this platform to launch his book. Now quickly, and I know the book was not written via ChatGPT because he started it way before ChatGPT. And I don't think ChatGPT would have been able to produce a book of this quality. Okay. I quickly had a look at the Cambridge definition of football, and I wanted to be very interesting. Between two teams of 11 people where each team the ball into the other team's goal. That's quite logical. The fascination with football is universal appeal due to accessibility, as it can be played anywhere with minimal equipment, and its inherent excitement driven by unpredictability, dramatic moments, and physical intensity. Football also provides a powerful sense of community and belonging and social cohesion, fulfilling deep human needs for connection. Furthermore, its global cultural influence, strategic depth, and the emotional investment it fosters contributes to its obsession, making it more than just a game. This is all now from Oxford. What the Oxford Dictionary says, word passion is a very strong feeling of love, hatred, anger. Feelings come into my body when I play soccer or football and when I simply watch a soccer match. Football has been in my life as a small kid. I think we can all relate to that. By the way, my name is Harald Hecht and I'm the proud president of Ramblers Football Club. This is where I got to know Carlos a number of years back, and maybe depending on progresses, I've got a little story to tell about Carlos, but we'll do that right at the end. Manuel is laughing already. At this juncture, I would like to call on our first guest speaker to share a few words with us, and that is the former NFA president, Mr. John Minyo. Thank you, Mr. Minyo.
Thank you very much, Harold. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. All protocol observed. Obviously, nowadays, when you come and speak here, you have to look at the audience and see how far you could go with protocol. But football people don't know protocol. Football people just want to play. And these faces that I'm seeing tonight here, these are the faces that dragged football. I cannot say, this is the faces that developed football. And I'm very proud. I actually didn't expect to see all these people around here. And these are people that added value to football. Congratulations. I think you should clap hands for yourself. As it was stated, my name is John Muinho, former president of the Football Association. I was also a former referee, together with Carlos. You know, Carlos, I'm not saying the pen. We shooting from the hip. So, oh, thank you. Well done, well done. Now, Carlos, wherever he got involved in football, in terms of playing for Hungry Lions, in terms of also he moved from another team, and then it came to being a referee as well as an administrator. He did a tremendous job because all the time he's involved. Although also I'm going to throw a story, but not later, I will do it now. He really did well at all spheres, and the book that he has written, it's an eye-opener. I think I drove all the way from wherever I'm staying to come and be here because he did invite me already when he was busy with the draft, and all this came from the president. He actually, when he is going to do the launch, he will say where it all it all came from. He did a tremendous job, really, and we should be very thankful that today we can witness what he did, because it was hard work. And as you said rightly, he was calling a lot of people. He did call several times. And what can we say? The rest is history. Tonight is the day to celebrate, and we are celebrating Namibian football, because this football, whatever was there, wrong or right, it is in that particular book. And therefore, what can we do? Our children should learn. It's an eye-opener, number one. I hope the children moving forward at universities and at all levels, also coaches and technical directors, they could really look into this book and talking to the guys. Some in the past, people did football of the game. He would travel all the way from Swakopmund and come tonight, and he gets a hike and goes back because tomorrow he needs to be at the job. As referees, we would travel to Rundu and go and with our own cars and go to the extent of doing these matches, finish them off, and come back, because we did it for the love of the game. And that is what Carlos and because this is a huge occasion. I don't think we all know what it all means, but the people also one that are through this book, then you will see that the job that was done here, it was really huge. It was massive, and I'm proud to get, and I'm also proud to have worked with Carlos. But now, let me come to the small joke. Those years when Carlos joined Ramblers from Hungry Lions, well, you know, and English, because Ramblers was an English team, am I right? And then yeah, every time that we meet at meetings, you know, because we were speaking Afrikaans, and then he came in with his English, because yeah, that was the order of the day, probably this side. But then at Katutura Stadium one day, Ramblers was not playing, but he was there. But then we were arguing a little bit. And you know Carlos, the way he would say things, but he was actually upset with what I might have said. And then he said, "But you darkies, you know." And then I said, "Carlos, but look, I mean, you are darker than me. What are you saying?" Okay. Colleagues, on that note, something small here, and that is what has been written somewhere. Sometimes the only way to win a football game is not to play the game. What do I mean by that? What Carlos did, he stopped playing, stopped refereeing on by writing this book. And it is being left in children to look into this book and learn and move forward. With those few words, let me congratulate Carlos. Carlos, well done. We cherish this moment and we are happy to be with you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Menu, for those very wise words. Season speaking. I remember his talks always at the NFA. It's a pleasure to have you. Maybe on a lighter note, talking about skin color. Nowadays we're all Namibians. In those days, skin color sort of mattered. We know that we shared in our country. But we as Ramblers in the Premier League 20 years ago, we had the late Peter van Wyk. A lot of you will remember Peter van Wyk. He was on our committee, and he was by definition a colored. And he had a problem with his skin, with his complexion, and he got lighter, basically, because he had a pigment problem. And the one day we had a function here, and our patron at the time was Andimba Toivo, and he greeted Peter, and he said, "Peter, you must finally decide now, are you black or are you white?" And I think this is what you get in football. You get people moving together. Football is a global. I feel that we as football players might have achieved more than politics, bringing the various cultures and the together with the football and the passion. At this juncture, I would like to call our second guest speaker, the Mayor of Durban, Mr. Willem Hunt.
Master of Ceremonies. I don't get it. Ma-
Well, by definition, we're still an amateur club, okay?
Thank you very much, Master of Ceremonies, for this occasion. If I look at all the people here, then I think about our young days when we have thought sport the main. I have come from Debra to say, my big friend, Carlos, your job you have done is tremendous good. I have gone through most of the few things, and I come and look at the pictures where I open my eyes and say, what he is speaking. He knew how to collect information, bring back to our people, because this is now what we waited for, to build the nation, the young people. I just want to mention something from our school. We have one important task, that was the academic part and the sport part. And the sport part was the main one. And remember, in the olden days in our black community, when we say we have clubs, it depends on big and strong people. They must be in the clubs, not the young ones. Strong and big. So in Debra we had now 4 big clubs. And the one was called Naughty Boys. Some people know them very well. Now if the word say naughty, they were the ones after the match. When they lose, they have to be deep and beat the other one. That is why they call themselves naughty. The elderly ones, very important and slow motion ones, they call themselves Sputnik. Now Sputnik was now those elderly, acceptable people who have said, we are guiding the naughty ones and stop them when they start with problems. After these 2, we have which we say the Northern Powers. Now, as our children from all the areas from Namibia, from the north, we have the one group which called themselves Northern Power. That was now from Okavango region. Strong and heavy people. Then you have the other ones come from the northwest, where the Ovambo people called the Tigers. They were now the group. So this is now the main groups which were existing. But after every team play, happened is war, struggle and war. And we decided now this must stop. This must stop. We must now create a situation of peace, acceptance. So we had now to start building clubs. And that was now the biggest difficult job, to start with these clubs. So now you must take ethnical group which is there. And you say one team is black Negroes. One there, and you put the other one, Santos, you put the other one there, and so you have combined a group and ethnical bound. No ethnic bound. So that was now what we have achieved. That was the first important thing. Because in Debra, many players which are sitting young people, as old people today, but as young people in those days, were coming from there. And that was the origin of starting an independent club which is really friendly and accept the nation achieve through our soccer in groups. we start, all the members, some of them sitting here, organizing clubs. Now, all our clubs were not now formed like from the whites. They have their own groups and smaller clubs, which are schools, because we start with schools. These schools' intentions now, we must create clubs which are training all people outside, so that clubs like Orlando Pirates have got players from schools. From Debra, there were so many of them also there. Then it was called now Black Africa. They all Debra students. That was the idea we shared in country. That was now our main focus point and work. And we are thankful that that has worked and have created those teams. Now we see that many of the clubs and players which are there have originally come from high schools. High schools, Augustinium has been one of them. High School Debra has been the other one. School Martin Luther. And so we go in all the various regions. That is which really build up in our community, which become the cream of the Namibian nation today and built the nation. That is the idea which I wanted to bring over to you, that you get the idea, what did the schools do for the build up players with the cream of the beginning of strong teams, what we have now in the country. We start with ethnical barriers. Oh yes. Swaps is known as the white club organization in those days. And then we have Nissan. NISA was now the Interracial School Soccer Association, which come from all the various clubs over the country and also in white schools, like the HPS join, some other schools in the coastal area join, and so we have now white and black teams together. Cream players, important players, many of them, and today instructors also were members of those groups, which has been formed later on. Thank you very much.
Top one. Thank you, Carlos. Thank you, Mr. Willem Hans, for providing that historical context. And the youth in bringing up the foundations for today's clubs. I think youth football is still a very important foundation that is also being taken care of at our club here. We've got a full-scale academy from which at this point in time our doing voluntary work for more than a decade in promoting our At this juncture, I have the distinct honor of calling up our daughter, Dr. Hage Geingop, Mrs. Nangula Geingos. And if we reflect on our former president, we know that he was the patron of the NFA, the Namibia Football Association, for a number of years, that he was an ardent and staunch football supporter, that he planted the seed and encouraged Carlos to late father was a fantastic speaker and entertainer, and I remember from the days at NFA, he was very often come around and he would grace us with his presence and his legendary stories. And I'll never forget two stories. The one was he played for Etosha Lions named Roadblock. I'm sure you know the story?
I know the story.
And then we all remember the late mascot Robbie. And he went with Robbie to African Cup of Nations. Namibia were trailing against Ivory Coast 3-0, equalized 3-3 and lost the game 4-3. I think we all saw that game. Captain was Sandro de Govaya. I was younger brother. And I think Robbie didn't carry a pass. Waiting.
Yeah.
Dr. Gattan war ek gaan. That late father was invited for coffee, I think, by the president of Burkina Faso. To be, you know, a talk between two heads of state, basically. He was the prime minister at the time, I think. And Robbie took it literally. He went into the room. And so the president of Burkina Faso was a little bit uncomfortable and was looking at Robbie. And Robbie, leave the room. Robbie, leave the room. And Robbie didn't understand. And eventually said, left the room. So your father was that ability to tell these stories. We miss him dearly, and we're looking forward to your words of wisdom. Thank you very much, Nangula.
Thank you, Director of Ceremonies. My son used to play for Ramblers when he was a little tyke. Now he's at a club we won't mention. Good evening, everyone. So, First Lady, Madam Genkos, is, in football terms, if she's the star player or the starting player, I guess I'm her humble substitute. And she really does express how unfortunate it is that she's not able to make it this evening. She really wanted to speak and present with you all this evening, but she had other commitments. And I'm very happy to be here on behalf of her and on behalf of the Gengop family. I'm going to read her remarks as I wrote them. So forgive me when I say Carlos instead of Uncle Carlos, and when I say Hage instead of Daddy. It is truly an honor to stand before you today to celebrate the work of a man who has dedicated so much of his time, energy, and passion to preserving the history of Namibian soccer, Mr. Carlos Kambaekua. For as long as I can remember, soccer has been more than a country. It has been a source of joy, a community builder, and even at times a political statement. In our family, Hage's love for sports, particularly soccer, was well known. Soccer, and just before he left for exile, he was called by many names. One was Gotti H, a name given to him by his friend Kalenga. Another, he said that it was almost impossible to get past him, and if you could make it past the danger point, you could score. You know that. Hage played Lions, a name he felt was perfectly fitting due to the culture and, of course, the Lions. To the very end, whenever the name Chief Santos came up, he would insist that the true and rightful name was Etosha Lions, and that history ought to reflect that. One of the highlights of his career was traveling with the Etosha Lions to South Africa by train and playing at the legendary Orlando Stadium. They lost every match, but they returned home with a stylish new kit and a new kind of confidence, the pride of having played on South African soil against formidable opponents. Hage often shared stories of those soccer days, including the times when the team traveled across the country in the back of a cattle truck. Victories were always sweet, but they always came with the danger of being pelted with stones by unhappy home crowds if you dare win. And so the trick was to run as fast as you could back to the truck as soon as the final whistle was blown. Yet as much as Hage loved soccer, he loved Namibia more. At the height church elder and soccer player, he made the choice to leave for exile. Politics came first. When he returned to Namibia 27 years later, he found a country transformed, so much so that even his beloved Etosha Lions had a new name. But never changed for soccer. It is no wonder that these two men, Hage and Carlos, got along like a house on fire. They are both passionate about the game of soccer, our country, and even our music. Hage often invited Carlos and his band to his farm to play at our family Christmas gatherings. Afterwards, they would reminisce about the life lessons to be learned from old school football and music. Hage was an avid reader and a strong believer in the importance of preserving institutional memory. These are qualities that Carlos shares, and it is how far he was with the book. And when Carlos finally brought a draft to Casa Rosalia, it gave him such joy. He paged through the profiles, proud that so many players, many forgotten by time, were now remembered. He was especially proud, of course, to find his own story included. Carlos, what you have done, short, you have images of players spanning over 60 years of Namibian soccer history. Chance fully use their potential through your book, stories, and their ever live on. This book ensures they remain in our hearts. Hage had promised Carlos that he would attend this launch as a keynote speaker. While life has taken its own course since then, it is my privilege and the privilege of the game. Carlos, congratulations on this remarkable achievement. Namibia owes you a debt of gratitude for preserving not just the stories of soccer, but the spirit of a sport that has united generations. Thank you. Oh, and if he was here and it was in his voice, he would say, "Yeah, you've done a good job."
Thank you very much. Another big round of applause, please. Nangula Gaingos. Representing the Gaingos family. I'm not going to put the mic up again because I want to hand over the mic now and give our guest of honor here, our very own Carlos Kambaekua, a chance to address all of you. Carlos, we are looking forward to your speech. The floor is yours, and enjoy the platform. Thank you very much, Carlos.
Good evening to all present here, and I would also like to recognize the presence of the old stalwart of Namibian football. A lot of people might not know him. He spent most of his time in exile, and I'm glad to see him here. His name is Bushman. Bush. He was a star player for African Stars, a very good player, versatile player, front, midfield, backline. He was one of the greatest players. I would also like to recognize of my friend Ronnie Dugnan, who came all over Johannesburg. If I have to mention all the names, then I will go on and on, but I will be failing in my duty not to mention those who really came from far, like Mark Kokomatunga, Ben Gossip, Klingi, the Springbok, and many others. I'm not actually a man of speeches. I like writing. But when I was doing research and writing this book, something really, it really came to my mind and it struck me. In 1975, there was a match that was played between the blacks and whites. Ronnie played in that match. Who else? Woody played in 1976 or whatever. Ivo played in that match. He scored a goal as well, I remember. And a lot of people don't realize, and I really realize actually, Namibia, peace and stability. For us venturing into after independence in 1990, that match actually was the turning point of racial tension that was there between blacks and whites. And from my experience, when I was interviewing a lot of white players, they were actually the ones who put pressure on government, on the government official or whatever, what was it, second tier government, whatever, to say, no man, we want to play against these guys. So as a result, apartheid was abolished in all sports codes, across all sports codes. And also a lot of laws were changed. Now we could go to the restaurant, although there was one guy, I think it was Jan van der Berg of Apollo Restaurant. He was another character. But really, to be brutally honest, that match changed and it contributed to the peace and stability that we enjoy in this country. That's the football. A lot of people don't understand football. Football is not just a game anymore. It's an employment provider. And people love football. Everybody loves football. What brought us here is because of football. But I think if you look at the government, football is right at the bottom of government's priorities. If you look at the budget is allocated to sports, I don't think really our lawmakers make us take sports seriously. That's one of my worries, is that people take sports seriously. We need to take sports seriously. With that, I don't have a lot to say. I'm glad for those who also assisted me. It was not, there were a couple of hard knocks along the way. It was not a walk in the park. It was quite a Mount Kilimanjaro to scale. But I have to bite the bullet, roll with the punches. Sometimes burn the midnight oil when you wake up late at night, go to the laptop, start before you forget, making notes. I will encourage you to purchase or to get hold of this copy, this book. It's from 1910 up to where we are. 1910, football was German settlers in Okanja. I don't know history. About this book, chapter has a corresponding photo. If I say Hage Geingob played football, there's a photo of Hage Geingob. So I'm very glad. I'm glad and happy that all of you came and for the night. Thank you very much.
Let's give Carlos a station, please. Okay. We've got a little surprise for you. Carlos, enjoy the applause. We've got a little surprise for you. Carlos is now going to join the band and entertain us. Are you ready, Carlos?
My apologies, Carlos is chickening out.
Yeba ziyatandan uyalubastana ni matunge diphangthwa nguwe uyalubastana nithi lali matunge nguwe lo uyalubastana nithi lali matunge enziwa nguwe Basaliba dibizeleni novulawa Tani bilendawana Basaliba dibizeleni sistandwa sa Itandi guzo Itandi yimbilendana Sistando sa Salai Simote masini Salaisha Okondilindile Salai Simote masini Salaisha Basa Salai Simote masini Salaisha Akaveli no mula Simote Salaisha
Dibanga thube ngabahluka ngendlela awuphenduli nomvula wa Thube ngabahluko bakho oh awuphenduli nomvula wa Dibanga thube ngabahluka ngendlela awubuyi nomvula wa Dibanga thube ngabahluko bakho oh awuphenduli nomvula wa Sithandwa sami Salai ngizalaisha okudilindile Salai shimoto masimi ngizalaisha Sithandwa sami Salai masimi ngizalaisha akavela unomvula wami Salai shimoto masimi ngizalaisha
Thank you very much. We just quickly just Kambaekua and the Jazz and Fusion Band. And I think tonight is Premier League standard. No, you detail. We're getting to the end of the evening. A note, and forgive me, ladies, but football has got its own. That happened, and Carlos Kambaekua was involved, and I don't really know, Carlos, whether you remember the story. It was playing for more with Ivo and a few others. I was the odd one out, but thank you. We were warming up, and I think I can't remember who we were playing. Carlos was playing for Ramblers against a club called Sporting. Who has been okay? And I think Sporting and it was short of Ramblers to give Carlos time. Carlos was warming up. And we all remember the late Colin Lackey, who was very good with his tongue and with his chirps and with his comments. And he said, Carlos, are you going to be came around for Ramblers? Carlos was concentrating on the game, so game was stopped, came on, and he was for Ramblers. There was a long ball on to the left wing, and and he tackled him on you know, and all of a sudden, God. I think, Ronnie, you will remember. So Carlos came off the field. Carlos had or maybe no. Anyway, to cut a long story short, he came off the field, and Colin said, "Now, man, my mom." We can all imagine the exchange that took place there. We're all Namibians. Carlos, I just wanted to share that on a another man, and that is Mr. Manuel. I forgot you earlier on. Manuel has also been this clip for Portugal recently, and we just saw CR7 Ronaldo shirts. Legend. He is what a merchandise factor he is, what an institution he is in Portugal. And I want to give Manuel do a vote of thanks, and then we close the proceedings. We have a beer. There are some snacks being served. Enjoy the evening at Ramblers. Thank you very much.
Yours. Good evening, everybody. Paul has been observed. After listening to such professionals, I'm amateur at the studio. I was me about book, a lot of who's this and who's that, but the book wasn't coming forth. I taken out of the bench. I said, Manny, so I had to organize printers, I had to organize finance, I had to organize everything. I'm glad that I made that
that this book see the daylight. Otherwise, we would have seen it. So, only thank you to a couple. First of all, I think the first person that I have to thank is Carlos. His time, passion, his research. Carlos, what you have done, that's great. At least you put Namibia history there, Namibia where it should be, so that there is no excuses that nobody can cooperate football. It's now. Thank you, Carlos. But behind every man, there's always, and Carlos said to me, the biggest motivator behind this book was the late President Kambaekua. I quite believe it, because also instrumental in a couple of talks that I had with him, he was really a motivator and he was a people's person. Tonight represented here by Angula Kambaekua. Not yet. And yeah, the other person that I have to say is he's actually the guy that finds not only the things do, but the printing of the I've made some notes here, but the light is so bad in my eyes. The lights miss. So yes, a vote of this available free of charge, and also to the lovely ladies in the kitchen that have been working very hard to provide you. I will invite to join. Harald has already done it. Also, thank you very much for the band to come along, Carlos, to bring your band, so that. Ladies and gentlemen, that is my speech for coming. Give yourself a round of applause. If it wasn't you, we would have been here. Thank you very much.
The last order of Nutrition, so maybe you can line up here. I don't know where it would be in front of the shirts there. Just, yeah, okay. And then enjoy the evening. That's it. Drink and drive.